chord strut, swing your butt to the palm chord strut, swing your butt, swing it to the left, swing it to the right.
Hi, I'm Melissa, curator of the Hogan Archive of New Orleans Music and New Orleans Jazz, and I'm thrilled to be here with you for this year's Danny Barker Banjo and Guitar Festival. The Hogan Archive is a division of Tulane University Special Collections, and our holdings consist of primary source materials, such as personal correspondence, business papers, scrapbooks, and much more, highlighting New Orleans culture and communities from a music-based perspective. We not only steward collections, but most importantly, we support the research and study of New Orleans music by making materials accessible. With that, I'd like to share with you the Danny and Blulu Barker collection, which first came to the Hogan Archive after Hurricane Katrina. Most of the artifacts were flood damaged and waterlogged. However, daughter Sylvia Barker entrusted the Hogan Archive with the important job of restoring the massive collection. And now for a behind the scenes look at the unprocessed Danny and Blulu Barker collection. Out of what could be salvaged, there are nearly 100 photographs from the personal archives of Danny and Blulu Barker from the 1920s up to Blulu Barker's funeral in 1998. The oldest photos in the collection are circa 1928. This one features Danny Barker flanked by Arthur Durbany and Lee Collins. And this one shows Danny in the center with Lee Collins on the right and an unidentified clarinetist on the left. Here's a candid shot of Danny having breakfast with a friend in April 1956. And here he is performing, banjo in hand, with the Submarine Six Band. The date and location are unidentified. This New Orleans picture shows Danny with renowned trumpeter Henry Red Allen and two unidentified men. The date is not identified. And here's an amazing later photo of Danny with trumpeter Doc Cheatham, his 1930s bandmate in Cab Calloway's orchestra. The photography collection also features Danny's wife, vocalist Blulu Barker, shown here with the Louisiana State Club of New York, circa 1940. That's Blulu right underneath the word York on the sign. She's in this later photo with Danny on the right. On the left is vocalist and musician Joseph Pleasant, also known as Smiling Joe, but better known as Cousin Joe, a name that Danny came up with for the renowned blues artist. Danny's work with the Fairview Baptist Church Christian Band is also represented in this series of photos taken on the Cotton Blossom steamboat dock in April of 1975. Danny's work with teenagers in this band in the early 1970s fostered a new movement of young musicians playing traditional New Orleans jazz while giving them performance opportunities. Finally, Danny Barker was not only recognized for his influence as a musician, but also for his work as an educator. Here he is in a 1973 shot performing for children at an unidentified location in New Orleans. The remaining materials of the Danny and Blulu Barker collection, 77 boxes total, contain rich resources for researching the Barkers and the history of New Orleans jazz. The collection reveals the Barkers to be personal archivists at heart. They documented their lives by keeping everything, and we are luckier for it. For example, Danny's handwritten early attempt to document a genealogy of, as he describes, his relatives in jazz includes his grandfather, cornetist Isidore Barbaran, his uncle, drummer Paul Barbaran, and his cousin, vocalist Esther Bijou. This issue of the second line, published by the New Orleans Jazz Club, features Danny on the cover of its January-February 1967 edition. The caption reads, "Danny Barker, assistant curator of the New Orleans Jazz Museum, tries out primitive African banjo." The corresponding cover story inside is titled "Danny Barker Comes Home" and welcomes Danny back to New Orleans after spending 35 years in New York. He's quoted as saying about New York, quote, "The frantic pace, the maddening rush, just ain't worth the trouble," end quote. The collection also includes notes, drawings, and a treatment that were done for a proposed musical about Buddy Bolden titled Bolden's Big Brass Bed. One of Danny's notes says, quote, "Maybe contact Jerry Wexler for the Bolden musical," end quote. Wexler was the influential producer and co-head of Atlantic Records, who in 1949, prior to joining the label, coined the term rhythm and blues. Here's a song list for the Fairview Baptist Church Brass Band that suggests jazz numbers such as Paul Barberand's Second Line and Basin Street Blues, as well as spiritual songs like Just a Closer Walk with Thee and Amazing Grace. There are also several flyers, including this one for Blue Lou Barker with Danny Barker and his Jazz Hounds, performing live at Snug Harbor Club in New Orleans in June 1983. And this one, which advertises an old jazzers concert for young jazzers at the Louisiana State Museum in April 1983. There's even a folder titled Comedy, Jokes, and Patter, filled with Danny's handwritten jokes and monologues. This one reads, quote, "I like to talk out in the public because my wife don't allow me to talk in the house," end quote. An original advertising flyer from 1949 is shown here for Blue Lou Barker with the Danny Barker Sextet and their single for the New York-based Apollo Records with You Gotta Show It to Me Baby on the A side of the record and Buy Me Some Juice on the B side. And here are Danny's notes for his plans to form a recording company and publishing company titled Dynamic Records. Just a few of the New Orleans artists on his wish list: his wife Blue Lou, cousin Joe, Jermaine Basil, Irma Thomas, and George French. The Danny and Blue Lou Barker collection, housed by the Hogan Archive of New Orleans Music and New Orleans Jazz, contains invaluable materials from the Barkers' personal collection: event programs, research files and manuscripts, correspondence, scrapbooks, business papers and contracts, recordings, and so much more, 77 boxes more to be exact, and all available to assist in your research or your personal interest in Danny Barker, Blue Lou Barker, or the history of New Orleans jazz and New Orleans music and culture. I'm Melissa Weber, Hogan Archive Curator with Tulane University Special Collections. Thank you for joining me here at the 2021 Danny Barker Banjo and Guitar Festival. And if you'd like to learn more about the Danny and Blue Lou Barker collection, please email specialcollections@tulane.edu.